Hello, and thank you for checking in again with us. You haven't really started yet, so if you're sitting on your couch and your family's close by, your friends are close by, press pause, bring them over, let's start a little conversation together. If you're at work, I'll try to be quiet enough to not catch your boss's attention. And if you are the boss and you already caught this employee watching this video, you should know this video is about spreadsheets and emails and planning surprise birthday parties for great bosses. So just hand it back to them. Now, let's actually talk about the other day. If you don't know about New Super Mario Bros. On the Nintendo Wii, then you may have missed out on perhaps the best part of the last decade. For those of you who aren't familiar, the 1985 version of Super Mario Bros., perhaps the best game ever made, was this game where you play as Mario, a plumber. I don't know why. And the object of the game was to go right. So that's how that was played. And that's pretty much whenever I lost interest in video games, when I could no longer just go right, when the object was where you have to collect things so that you can build other things, and you might get attacked by zombies, and you might have to put in your credit card number to play. I lost interest. When it was right, anyways, New Super Mario Bros. Was essentially the same game as the original Super Mario Bros. You just go right, except that you could play with up to 4 total people. Like, you could all play on the screen at the same time. It was super chaotic, a little unnerving, and a whole lot of fun. Now, there's a command in the game, a feature in the game that I thought was kind of interesting, where whenever you're playing with multiple other people, you could push a button and go into a bubble, right? You could bubble up, and it would keep you safe from any kind of danger whenever you did this. The only thing is you need a friend to pop the bubble to get you out of the bubble. My daughter, when we would play this all the time, my 6-year-old daughter, she would stay inside of that bubble anytime we were playing a level that she did not feel comfortable with, so pretty much anything past the first couple of levels. She would stay in this bubble unless there were coins or power-ups or some sort of loot to be collected, or if there was no danger whatsoever around, she would say, "Pop me, pop me, pop me, pop me." And you'd pop her, and she'd come out, and she'd collect all the coins for herself and collect all the power-ups for herself, and then she'd bubble right back up. And that, her strategy for that game really got me thinking about this series, Are You Helping? This started thinking about the relationships that we have with people and how we kind of all have a conflicted relationship with getting involved in each other's lives. We have a conflicted relationship with how to help each other. We have all been the bubble people who just sort of let others do the work for us, and then pop me, I'm going to come out and get some of the good stuff, and then I'm going back in the bubble for you guys to do the hard work. And then we've also all been the other side of the equation, where our friends just feels like they're in the bubble all the time. They're using us, they're letting us do the hard work for them, and then they just show up when they need our help. And so I think maybe we need some parameters, maybe we need some guidelines, maybe we need a system or a structure for understanding how to help each other, how to be involved in each other's lives in a way that actually does help. So we've been looking at Galatians chapter 6, and starting in verse 1, I'm going to read this to you. I've covered about half of it so far in the previous vlog video and in our previous podcast, and I'm going to cover about the second half of it, maybe not all the way through. I know, we're going to be 3 weeks into this thing, and we're going to make it through one total verse. Go us. But it's packed with some incredible stuff. Paul writes to the Galatian church, "Dear brothers and sisters, if another believer is overcome by some sin." Now, the other vlog, I talked a whole lot about what that actually means, but for our purposes right here, maybe you could just consider that another believer being overcome by some sin is someone who needs help, and they're asking for help. Someone who's crying out for help, someone who needs your involvement in their situation, needs your intervention, needs you to show up for them, and they're asking for your help. If another believer is overcome by some sin, you who are godly should gently and humbly help that person back onto the right path. So I want to share just 2 ideas very quickly with you. I want to talk about what it is to help people gently and what it is to help people humbly. In our most pious and religious and sort of full of ourselves moments, we really struggle to help people. Even when we think we're helping, we're not helping in those times. Whenever we feel real good and God-like, not godly, God-like, we think we have all of the power. We think we have all of the control. We think we have everything everybody needs. We are not helpful. And Paul writes about this. Paul knows this about us, and he points out a couple of character traits that I think are really worth considering. He says that we should be gentle and humble. Gently and humbly help people back on the right path. Now, gentleness is really a fruit of the Spirit of the character of Jesus. Nobody puts gentleness on display better than Jesus Christ himself. When God shows up in the flesh, he shows up as a baby, surrendered to the care of others, a picture of gentleness. He comes to us as poor and unimpressive in a way. His neck is under the boot of the government of his day. He's not the government with his boot on the neck of people. He actually allows himself to be put into the structure of things, into the culture of things with his neck under the boot. He touches the skin of the sick and the contagious and the unclean. He spends much of his time speaking directly to and not down at the outcasts of his day. He goes into the homes of criminals. He eats their food. He drinks their wine. He goes to parties. He washes the feet of people that he knows will sell him out. He allows himself to be arrested for crimes that were made up against him by those who feared him, and he was crucified for sins that he didn't commit. This is gentleness. This is what it is to be gentle. And Paul teaches us that maybe you need a bit of a filter for helping people. Are you helping? Well, one of the things that I think we should be considering is, are your interventions gentle? Are you entering into the relationship with the character of Jesus, saying, I don't condemn you. Now, go and sin no more. I don't condemn you, but if you want to live a better life, I'd like to help you discover it. This is the picture that we have in Jesus. And then on the other hand, we have humility. When I was in college a lifetime ago, I was pursuing a counseling degree. And how does that make you feel? See, I've still got it. So at Marshall University, I was finishing up my degree, around 21 years old, my last year, and there came this recurring theme that I kept hearing and all the other students in our program kept hearing, and it was pretty annoying. We would hear it from our teachers and professors, but then we would also hear it from the practitioners, people who were actually counseling out in the field, maybe even more from them, these incredibly wise, seasoned veterans of counseling relationships where you're trying to intervene and help people. They would say over and over and over again, don't give advice. Now that was annoying to me, because what else are we here for, right? I'm a counselor. I'm 21 years old. I know how the world works. I have advice to give. But over and over and over again, these people who are way wiser than me, have experienced way more than me, and have helped a lot more people than me are saying, don't give advice. You've got to be more humble than that. There's several reasons why you shouldn't give advice, and I want to offer a few of them. And the last one's probably the most important, but let me offer you a few others just so I can maybe get you on board with why you shouldn't. If you really want to help somebody, don't give advice, because they might do what you tell them to do, and it might go great, and you might get all the credit for it. You would get the victory of it. You would be the one, and then you have someone that you helped, but you didn't really help because now they feel like they need you or someone else to help them make big decisions and take big steps next time. Secondly, you might tell someone what to do, and they might do it, and it might go badly, right? Then you might get all of the blame. So, worst case scenario, you tell somebody what to do, and they actually do it, and it's not good advice. Now, at 21, I did hear that just a little bit, right? I was like, oh yeah, I guess that's true. I would be liable for the advice that I give, and that might not be good. The third thing that might happen if you give people advice, you think of helping as getting into someone's life and not being gentle and not being humble, but just telling them what to do. The third thing that might happen is they might look at you and say, I'm sorry, who the heck do you think you are? Because you don't know me, and you don't know my situation, and I'm not doing anything that you're telling me to do. So all three of those reasons are pretty good reasons to not give advice, because they're not going to help. Right? If somebody does it and you get the credit, well, that's not helpful to them. That just makes them codependent. If you tell them what to do and they don't do, and they do it and it goes badly, well, that's not super helpful, because then you gave them bad advice. If you tell them what to do and they don't do it because you don't know their business and they don't trust you enough to do it, well, that's not helpful either. And then the fourth reason, and this is probably the one that should connect the most and that should highlight the humility necessary in these relationships the most. You don't know everything there is to know about somebody else's life, about somebody else's situation. At best, you are getting their one-sided story. You're getting their point of view, and not even their whole point of view. You're getting the part of their point of view that they are choosing to share with you. So you don't have all of the details necessary. Humility, helping people in a relationship of humility, actually is a willingness to step in and say, okay, well, I'm not here to give advice, because who am I to give advice? I don't know what you should do. I don't know your situation. That doesn't mean that we can't offer some people some level of counsel. It doesn't mean that we can't offer them our opinions about things. It just means that we should be sprinkling our opinions with a reminder to people that ultimately they need to be sourced back to God Himself. We need to be playing the role of pointing people to their Heavenly Father and saying, I actually don't know what you should do here, even when it feels obvious. But I actually don't know how you should solve this particular issue in your life. But even though I think I kind of do, I don't know for sure. And I want to help you discover it for yourself. I want to help you go to your Heavenly Father, who does actually have all the details, who knows the story better than you told it, who knows the story better than you do, because He doesn't just have your point of view, and He can actually direct you onto this right path. If you really, really want to help somebody, and you're really kind of looking at these parameters and you're saying, I do think the Apostle Paul gives a pretty good outline for how to help people. I do think that I could learn a little bit from helping more gently, from taking a page out of Jesus' book and looking into people's eyes and saying, I don't condemn you. I don't condemn you, but if you want to take steps towards the better life that Jesus has for you, I'd like to help you discover them. And taking a page from this book of humility and saying, I don't know everything there is to know. I'm not an advice giver. Who am I to give advice? I don't know your whole situation. I only know what you've told me, and I don't know what you should do best. God does, and I'd like to help you get to Him where He could really help you.